Alright, settle in. This is a long, emotional WrestleMania story, written like a dramatic WWE saga, full of heart, pain, and redemption. Yes, it's fiction, told in the larger-than-life spirit of wrestling storytelling. The blood, the vow, and the beast. The stadium was shaking. 80,000 voices roared as fireworks tore across the night sky, painting WrestleMania in fire and thunder. In the center of it all stood Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion, gripping the title with hands that had carried far more than gold. Tonight wasn't just about winning. Tonight was about survival. From the front row, Ronda Rousey stood silently, her eyes never leaving Roman. She wasn't wearing a title. She wasn't smiling. She was wearing black, because she knew what kind of war this would be. She was Roman Reigns' wife, and she was terrified. The promise. Years earlier, before the championships, before the bloodline chants, Roman had made her a promise. No matter how dark this world gets, he told her, I'll always come back to you. Ronda had lived her whole life fighting, Olympic mats, UFC cages, WWE rings, but loving Roman was the hardest fight of all. She knew the toll this business took. She had seen the scars on his body, the exhaustion in his eyes, the nights he woke up gasping after battles no one else remembered. And now, across the ring tonight, stood the man who threatened to take everything away. Enter the beast. The lights went out, the music hit, and Brock Lesnar walked out. No smile, no rush, just slow, deliberate steps, like a predator who already knew the hunt was over. Paul Heyman followed, but his voice was lost beneath the crowd's fear. Brock Lesnar wasn't here for drama. He was here to destroy Roman Reigns. He had done it before. At past WrestleManias, Brock had broken Roman, physically, emotionally, leaving him crushed, humiliated, doubting himself. Those losses haunted Roman. They followed him into every title reign, every main event, and Brock knew it. As Brock climbed into the ring, his eyes flicked briefly toward Ronda. A warning. The bell rings. The match began like a car crash. Brock exploded into Roman with suplex after suplex, tossing him like a rag doll. German suplexes, F5 attempts, elbows that echoed through the stadium. Roman's body screamed for mercy. Ringside, Ronda's hands shook. She wanted to jump in, to fight Brock herself, but she knew Roman's pride. She knew what this match meant. This was Roman facing his past. This was Roman facing his breaking point. Midway through the match, Brock lifted Roman onto his shoulders. F5. The impact rattled the ring. The referee counted. 1, 2. Roman kicked out. The crowd erupted, but Brock didn't look shocked. He looked angry. Brock grabbed Roman by the hair, yelling, You're still not enough. Another F5. Another pin. Another kick out. Roman's eyes were glassy now. Blood trickled from his forehead. Every breath hurt. And then Brock did something cruel. He stepped out of the ring, and stared directly at Ronda. Roman saw it. Fear surged through him like lightning. He forced himself up, stumbling, barely standing. This ends with me, Roman whispered. Not her. The turning point. Brock charged. Roman countered with a Superman punch. Once, twice. The crowd chanted his name. Roman hit the ropes, spear. Brock kicked out. Roman collapsed to his knees, exhausted, broken, doubting everything. And that's when he heard her voice. Roman, look at me. Ronda stood up, tears streaming down her face. You are more than his shadow. You are more than your losses. You promised me you'd come back. Now fight like it. Something changed in Roman's eyes. Not rage, not ego, love. The final war. Roman rose again. Brock charged again. They collided, fists, elbows, headbutts, two titans refusing to fall. Roman locked in a guillotine choke. Brock powered out. Another F5 attempt. Roman slipped free. Spear. Roman didn't go for the pin. He pulled Brock up. Another spear. And another. Roman screamed, not in anger, but release, as he pinned Brock's shoulders to the mat. 1, 2, 3. After the storm, the bell rang. Roman Reigns had done it. He lay flat on the mat, tears mixing with blood, the title resting on his chest. Ronda climbed into the ring, throwing her arms around him as the crowd roared. Brock Lesnar sat up slowly, staring at Roman, not with hatred, but respect. For the first time, Brock nodded. And then he left. The vow kept. Roman held the championship up with one hand, and Ronda's hand with the other. I told you, he whispered to her. Come back. Ronda smiled through tears. You always do. As fireworks lit the sky, Roman Reigns stood not just as champion, but as a man who had conquered his past, protected his future, and proved that even in the brutal world of WWE, love can be the strongest force of all. Part 2. The crown is heavy. The roar of WrestleMania faded, but the damage didn't. Roman Reigns sat alone in a dark locker room hours after the victory. The Universal Championship lay beside him on the bench, untouched. Doctors had come and gone. Tape wrapped his ribs. Ice rested on his shoulder. Every breath felt like fire. He had beaten Brock Lesnar. But somehow, he didn't feel like he'd won. Across the room, Ronda Rousey watched him quietly. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself after brutal fights, the look of someone who survived, but left pieces of themselves behind. "You don't have to carry it all alone," she said softly. Roman didn't answer. He stared at his hands. Hands that had held championships. Hands that had fed his family. Hands that had failed him before. "Every time I beat him," Roman finally said, voice cracking. "It costs me something. One day, there won't be anything left." Ronda knelt in front of him, gripping his face. "Then we walk away before that day comes." Roman shook his head. "I don't know how. The beast still hunts." The WWE Universe believed Brock Lesnar was gone. They were wrong. Weeks later, Roman stood in the ring on SmackDown, the championship on his shoulder. The crowd acknowledged him, but their cheers felt distant, hollow. Roman raised the mic. "At WrestleMania, I beat Brock Lesnar. I proved." The lights cut out. That music hit again. Brock Lesnar returned like a nightmare you wake up screaming from. No Paul Heyman this time. Just Brock. He walked to the ring slowly, eyes locked on Roman like a debt unpaid. "You beat me," Brock said calmly. "But you didn't break me." Roman said nothing. Brock leaned in close. "And next time, I don't just take the title. Pause. I take you away from everything you love. Fear has a name." That night, Roman barely slept. Ronda lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, short, uneven, haunted. She'd fought monsters in cages, but Brock Lesnar was different. Brock wasn't chaos. He was inevitability. "He's inside your head," she said quietly in the dark. Roman turned toward her. "He's inside my life." Ronda sat up. "Then we change the rules." Roman frowned. "What rules?" Ronda's eyes hardened, the same fire that once made opponents fear her. "We stop pretending this is just wrestling." A dangerous decision. The next week, Ronda Rousey walked onto SmackDown with Roman. Not as a guest. Not as a legend. But as a warning. The crowd exploded. Ronda took the mic. "Brock Lesnar," she said coldly. "You don't scare me." The camera cut backstage. Brock smiled. Ronda continued. "You want Roman? You want his life? Then you deal with both of us." Roman turned sharply. "Ronda." She squeezed his hand. "I've watched you fight alone long enough." The challenge was unspoken, but understood. The match that shouldn't happen. Management tried to stop it. Doctors protested. Officials warned them. Fans argued online. But the contract was signed. SummerSlam. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Last man standing. And if Roman lost, he would be forced to walk away from WWE. No rematches. No redemption. Just silence. Ronda stood backstage before the match, taping Roman's wrists herself. "If this is the end," she whispered, "we end it on our feet." Roman kissed her forehead. "If I fall." "You won't," she said fiercely. "Because I'll be right there." Cliffhanger. The bell hadn't rung yet. But fate already had. Brock Lesnar waited in the ring. Roman Reigns stood at the entrance. And for the first time in his career, Roman wasn't sure if love would part 3. Last man standing. The crowd at SummerSlam wasn't cheering. They were waiting. The kind of silence that comes before something terrible or unforgettable. Roman Reigns stood at the entrance ramp, staring at the ring like it was an execution ground. The Universal Championship wasn't on his shoulder tonight. This wasn't about titles. This was about ending something. Behind him, Ronda Rousey adjusted the tape on his wrists with shaking fingers. For the first time, the baddest woman on the planet looked afraid. "Listen to me," she said, forcing his eyes to meet hers. "No matter what happens in there, no matter how ugly it gets, you don't stop getting up because of pride. You stop if your body tells you it's done." Roman gave a tired smile. "I don't know how to quit." Ronda swallowed hard. "Then I'll know for you." The music hit. Roman walked. The war begins. Brock Lesnar didn't wait for the bell. The moment Roman stepped through the ropes, Brock charged like a freight train. The referee barely escaped as Brock drove Roman into the corner with shoulder after shoulder, each one sounding like bone cracking against steel. This wasn't wrestling. This was punishment. Brock threw Roman outside the ring and followed, smashing him into the barricade, the ring post, the announce table. Roman's body bounced, folded, collapsed, but every time, he dragged himself back up. The referee counted. 5. Roman staggered up. Brock laughed. "Save him, or be the reason he lost everything." The first chair shot echoed through the arena. Roman screamed. From ringside, Ronda covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. She wanted to intervene, but she knew the stipulation. She knew what stopping the match would mean. Roman tried to stand. Another chair shot. Another. The referee begged Brock to stop. Brock didn't even look at him. The breaking moment. Brock hoisted Roman up. F5 onto the steel steps. Roman crumpled, unmoving. The count began. 1, 2, 3. Ronda climbed onto the apron, screaming Roman's name. 4. Roman twitched. 5. He rolled onto his side. 6. Brock leaned against the ropes, calm, patient. 7. Roman got to one knee. The crowd exploded. 8. Roman stood. Barely. Brock's smile vanished. "Why won't you stay down?" Brock roared. Roman wiped blood from his eyes. "Because I still have something to live for." The beast loses control. Brock snapped. He charged again. But Roman countered with a desperate Superman punch. Brock stumbled. Roman followed with another. And another. Roman speared Brock through the barricade. Both men lay motionless in the wreckage. The referee counted. 5. 6. Roman crawled to the apron, using the ropes to stand. Brock followed, but slower now. The beast was hurting. For the first time, Brock Lesnar looked mortal. The choice. Inside the ring, Brock lifted Roman one last time. F5 position. Ronda climbed the steps, shouting. "Roman! Look at me!" Roman saw her. And in that moment, he understood something he'd been avoiding for years. Winning wasn't everything. Surviving mattered too. Roman shifted his weight, slipped behind Brock, and locked in the guillotine choke, tight, relentless. Brock thrashed. Fought. Faded. Both men collapsed. The referee counted. 8. Roman pulled himself up using the ropes. Brock tried. He failed. 10. Aftermath. The bell rang. Roman Reigns was the last man standing. But he didn't celebrate. He dropped to his knees, shaking, gasping, broken. Ronda slid into the ring and held him as medics surrounded them. Roman clung to her like he was afraid she'd disappear if he let go. Brock Lesnar sat up slowly outside the ring. He looked at Roman. Long. Hard. Then he stood, and walked away without a word. The beast was gone. The silence after the storm. Weeks later. No Roman. No Ronda. Fans speculated. Rumors exploded. Retirement whispers grew louder. Finally, Roman returned, no music, no title, just a microphone. Ronda stood beside him. "I fought Brock Lesnar," Roman said quietly. "And I won." Pause. "But I almost lost the thing that matters most." He took Ronda's hand. "This business taught me how to fight. She taught me how to live." Roman set the microphone down. And for the first time, he didn't look back at the ring. Part 4, Life After the Ring. The house was too quiet. Roman Reigns sat on the edge of the bed at dawn, staring at his hands again. But this time, there were no wrist tapes, no bruises blooming purple and blue. The silence felt louder than any WrestleMania crowd ever had. No road cases. No flights. No countdown to the next fight. Just life. Behind him, Ronda Rousey stirred and reached for him in her sleep, her fingers instinctively finding his arm like she was afraid he might disappear. Roman exhaled slowly and leaned back, letting her pull him close. For years, he'd promised her he'd come back. Now he was here. And he didn't know who he was without the ring. The ghost of the tribal chief. Weeks passed. Roman tried normal things. Morning walks. Cooking. Watching fights on TV. But every time a wrestling clip flashed across the screen, every spear, every roar of the crowd, his chest tightened. One night, Ronda caught him standing in the garage at 2 a.m., staring at his old gear laid out neatly in a box. "You miss it," she said gently. Roman nodded. "I miss knowing who I am." Ronda leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You were Roman Reigns before WWE. And you'll be Roman Reigns after it too." He laughed bitterly. "The fans don't chant my name anymore." Ronda stepped closer. "I still say it." She placed her hand over his heart. "And so does this." Roman closed his eyes. For the first time, he cried, not from pain, not from loss, but from release. The beast's shadow. Across the country, in a gym that smelled of iron and sweat, Brock Lesnar watched the same clips. Roman walking away. Roman choosing love. Brock shut the screen off and sat in silence. He had beaten champions. Broken legends. Ended careers. But Roman Reigns had done something Brock never could. He had chosen to stop. And somehow, that haunted Brock more than defeat ever had. A test of strength. Months later, Roman stood ringside, not as a wrestler, but as a guest, watching a new generation tear each other apart. The crowd noticed him. They stood. They chanted. "Roman! Roman!" His chest tightened again. Ronda squeezed his hand. "You don't owe them anything," she whispered. Roman nodded. But his eyes never left the ring. That night, Roman couldn't sleep. "What if I walked away too early?" he asked quietly. Ronda turned toward him. "Then you go back for the right reason," she said. "Not for ego. Not for revenge." Pause. For closure. The call. The phone rang 3 days later. Roman stared at it. Unknown number. He answered. Silence. Then, "You still standing?" Roman closed his eyes. "Yeah," he said. Brock Lesnar's voice was calm. Almost respectful. "Good," Brock said. "Because I don't want our story to end with you running." Roman's jaw tightened. "I didn't run." "Prove it," Brock replied. "One last time." No titles. No contracts. A pause. Just two men, finishing what they started. Roman hung up. He sat there for a long time. Then Ronda walked in. She didn't ask who it was. She already knew. The decision. Roman told her everything. The challenge. The temptation. The fire that still burned. Ronda listened without interrupting. Finally, she spoke. If you go, she said carefully. You don't go alone. Roman frowned. Ronda. I'm not saying I fight all. Part 6, What Remains. 10 years later. The ring lights buzzed softly inside a small training gym in Florida. No banners. No legends on the wall, just hard work, sweat, and hope. A group of young wrestlers stood in a line, nervous, stretching, whispering to each other. Then the door opened. Roman Reigns walked in. No music. No entrance pose. Just a man in a hoodie and sneakers. Every conversation stopped. They all knew who he was. Roman looked around, taking it in. The smell of the mat. The echoes. The memories that no longer hurt. Relax, he said with a small smile. I'm not here to judge you. The tension broke. Nervous laughs followed. Roman stepped into the ring slowly, hands resting on the ropes like he was greeting an old friend. I used to think this ring was everything, he said. That if I wasn't in it, I was nothing. He paused. That was the biggest lie I ever believed. Ronda's voice. Outside the ring, leaning against the wall, Ronda Rousey watched him teach. She saw the way he corrected footwork patiently. The way he stopped matches before they got reckless. The way he cared more about safety than applause. This Roman was calmer. Softer. Stronger. One of the trainees asked, almost afraid. Do you miss it? WrestleMania, the crowd? Roman thought for a long moment. Then he answered honestly. Sometimes. He glanced toward Ronda. But I never miss who I had to become to survive it. Ronda smiled to herself. The legacy isn't gold. That night, Roman and Ronda sat together in the empty gym after everyone had gone home. The ring lights were off. Just them. They listened to you, Ronda said. Roman shrugged. I just tell them the truth. He looked at his hands again, older now, scarred, steady. I don't want them chasing ghosts like I did. Ronda leaned her head on his shoulder. You're giving them something better than a title, she said. You're giving them a way out. Roman exhaled slowly. Yeah, he said. I guess that's my championship now. A name in the crowd. Months later, Roman attended WrestleMania, not backstage, not as a legend, but in the crowd. Fans whispered when they recognized him. Some nodded in respect. Some wiped away tears. No chance. And Roman liked it that way. Ronda squeezed his hand. Any regrets? She asked. Roman shook his head. I fought the biggest monsters of my life, he said. And I won the only fight that mattered. He looked at her. Keeping us. The last line. That night, as fireworks lit the sky for someone else's main event, Roman stood and turned to leave before the show ended. No one stopped him. No one needed to. As they walked out hand in hand, Ronda asked softly, Do you think they'll remember you? Roman smiled, not the confident grin of a champion, but the peaceful smile of a man at home in himself. They don't have to, he said. I remember who I am. And that was enough. Part 7, Bloodline, Not Chains. The boy stood alone in the ring. He couldn't have been more than 16, tall, broad-shouldered, nervous in a way that reminded Roman of someone he used to be. Sweat dripped from his hair onto the mat as he practiced spears again and again, each one powerful but uncontrolled. Roman watched silently from the doorway. Ronda stood beside him. He has your eyes, she said softly. Roman exhaled. Yeah, he replied. That's what scares me. A new fire. The boy noticed them and froze. I'm sorry, sir, he said quickly. I just wanted extra reps. Roman stepped closer to the ring. What's your name? Joseph, the boy answered. But everyone calls me Joe. Roman nodded. Why do you want this? He asked. Joe hesitated. Because my family expects greatness, he said. Because I don't want to be forgotten. The words hit Roman harder than any spear ever had. Ronda glanced at him. She knew. The lesson Roman never got. Roman stepped into the ring and faced Joe. I was once where you are, Roman said calmly. And I chased greatness so hard that I almost lost everything. Joe's voice cracked. But you became a legend. Roman shook his head. No, he said gently. I survived one. Silence filled the gym. Roman continued. If you step into this world thinking pain proves your worth, it will take everything from you. Joe swallowed. Then how do I win? Roman placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. You win by knowing when to fight. And when to walk away. Ronda's rule. Ronda climbed onto the apron, arms crossed. And one more thing, she added. You don't destroy yourself to make people cheer. Joe nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Ronda smiled slightly. Good, she said. Because if you do, I'll personally throw you out of this gym. Roman laughed quietly. It felt right. That night. Later, Roman and Ronda sat on their porch again, older now, slower, peaceful. You saw yourself in him, Ronda said. Roman nodded. I saw who I could have been, he said. If someone had stopped me. Ronda leaned into him. Now you're the one stopping the cycle. Roman stared up at the stars. The bloodline was never about domination, he said. It was about responsibility. The whisper of the crowd. Years passed. Joe debuted. Not as the next Roman Reigns. Not as a weapon. But as himself. Fans noticed the difference. He fought hard, but smart. He walked away when injured. He honored the ring, but didn't worship it. One night, after a major win, Joe looked into the camera and said, I'm here because someone taught me that my life matters more than applause. Backstage, Roman watched the screen. Ronda took his hand. You changed the business, she said. Roman shook his head. No, he replied quietly. I changed the ending. Final image. Long after the lights went out, Roman returned to the empty gym. He stepped into the ring one last time. Not to fight. Just to stand. He closed his eyes. No chance. No titles. No monsters. Just peace. And somewhere in the distance, the future kept moving, strong, human, unbroken. Part 8, the night the lesson was tested. WrestleMania returned under blinding lights and impossible noise. Joe stood at the entrance ramp, chest rising and falling too fast, hands clenched into fists he didn't realize were shaking. His name echoed through the stadium, not thunderous yet, but real. Earned. Backstage, Roman Reigns watched from a monitor. Ronda stood beside him, arms crossed, jaw tight. This is the moment, Ronda said quietly. Where lessons either stick or break. Roman didn't respond. Because he saw it. The same fire. The same hunger. The same dangerous thought Joe didn't know he was having yet. If I just give them everything, they'll love me forever. The match. Joe's opponent was brutal. Experienced. Unforgiving. The match was fast. Hard. Clean. Then it turned. A bad landing. A twisted knee. A fraction of a second too slow. Joe went down. She referee checked on him. From the crowd, people screamed for him to get up. From backstage, Roman stood. His heart pounded like it used to before every war. Stay down, Roman whispered to the screen. Please, stay down. Joe pushed himself to one knee. The crowd exploded. Ronda's breath caught. Roman, she said, already knowing. The crossroads. Joe limped forward, pain written across his face. His opponent hesitated, just for a moment. That moment was Joe's chance. Finish the match. Win the moment. Become something bigger. Joe glanced toward the hard camera. And for half a second, he looked straight at Roman. Not physically, but spiritually. Roman moves. Roman didn't think. He moved. Past security. Past officials. Out into the stadium aisle. The crowd gasped as they realized who it was. Roman Reigns walked down the ramp. No music. No authority. Just urgency. Ronda followed, fearless. The referee froze. Joe froze. Roman stood at ringside, eyes locked on his student. This is the part they don't show on highlight reels. Roman said loudly enough for Joe to hear. This is where you choose who you are. Joe's voice trembled. I can finish it. Roman nodded. I know, he said. But you don't have to. The crowd buzzed, confused, split, restless. Roman stepped closer. If you get up because you're scared to disappoint them, he said, pointing to the crowd. This business will own you. Pause. If you walk away because you respect yourself. Roman placed a hand over his heart. You already won. The choice. Joe looked down at his knee. Then at Roman. Then at Ronda, who nodded once, firmly. Joe exhaled. And sat back down. The referee called for medical help. Boos mixed with applause. Confusion with respect. The match was stopped. After the noise. Backstage, Joe sat on a bench, head in his hands. I'm sorry, he said. I feel like I failed. Roman crouched in front of him. You didn't fail, Roman said gently. You broke the cycle. Joe looked up, tears in his eyes. Will they remember me? Roman smiled. They'll remember the night someone chose himself on the biggest stage. Ronda added quietly. That's courage. Later that night. WrestleMania ended. Fireworks lit the sky. But Roman didn't watch. He sat beside Joe in the medical room, waiting, present. Ronda leaned against Roman's shoulder. You okay? She asked. Roman nodded. Yeah, he said. This time, I didn't let the monster win. What the crowd didn't know. The next morning, headlines argued. Fans debated. But in the quiet places, the locker rooms, the gyms, the hearts of young wrestlers, something shifted. They talked about boundaries. About choice. About strength without self-destruction, and Roman Reigns knew then. Legacy wasn't about being remembered as the greatest. It was about making sure the next one didn't have to bleed the same way. Part 9, when the crowd turns. The backlash was immediate. Talk shows. Commentators. Social media. Everyone had an opinion. Roman Reigns robbed a young star of his WrestleMania moment. That's not toughness, that's weakness. This business isn't for people who quit. Roman watched none of it. But Joe did. Doubt creeps in. Joe sat alone in the rehab room, his knee wrapped, his phone glowing with endless opinions. Some fans thanked him. Others tore him apart. His hands shook. Maybe I should have pushed through, Joe muttered. Roman, standing in the doorway, heard every word. He walked in slowly. That thought doesn't go away easily, Roman said. I still hear it sometimes. Joe looked up, surprised. Even now? Roman nodded. Especially now. Roman sat beside him. Pain is loud. But regret is louder. The confrontation. 1 week later, Roman was called to the ring. No entrance music. No cheers. Just tension. A senior executive stood across from him, microphone in hand. "You crossed a line," the executive said. "You interfered in a WrestleMania match and damaged the product." The crowd murmured. Roman took the mic calmly. "I protected a human being." Boos rained down. Roman didn't flinch. "This industry taught me to ignore pain until I couldn't walk. To smile while breaking. To confuse sacrifice with worth." He paused. "I won't pass that curse on." Ronda watched from backstage, jaw set, proud. A cost is paid. The punishment came fast. Roman was barred from appearing on WWE programming. Not fired. Not celebrated. Just removed. The internet exploded again. Joe felt sick. "This is my fault," he said, eyes wet. "You didn't deserve that." Roman put a hand on his shoulder. "Every real stand costs something," Roman said. "If it didn't, it wouldn't matter." The quiet months. Roman disappeared again. No interviews. No statements. No defenses. He trained young wrestlers quietly. He healed with Ronda. He lived. But the business felt different without him. Younger talent spoke more openly. Referees stopped matches sooner. Veterans checked on rookies. Small changes. Real ones. Joe's return. 9 months later. Joe returned to the ring, stronger, smarter, careful. Before his first match back, he took the mic. "Last year, someone told me my life mattered more than the moment," Joe said. "I'm here because I listened." The crowd applauded. Not thunderous, but honest. Backstage, Roman watched on a small screen. Ronda squeezed his hand. "You see that?" she said softly. Roman nodded. "Yeah," he said. "That's enough." A knock at the door. That night, Roman's phone rang. A familiar number. He answered. Silence. Then, "You were right," the voice said. Roman closed his eyes. "About what?" "About the cost," the executive admitted. "And about the future." Pause. "We need you." Roman looked at Ronda. She raised an eyebrow. "On one condition," Roman said. Part 10, on his terms. The arena lights dimmed. No music hit. No Titantron flashed. Confusion rippled through the crowd as a single spotlight turned toward the entrance ramp. Then Roman Reigns walked out. No gear. No title. No pose. Just a microphone in his hand and calm in his eyes. For a heartbeat, the arena didn't know how to react. Then the crowd stood. The applause wasn't deafening. It was respectful. And that mattered more. Not a comeback. Roman stepped into the ring slowly. He looked around, not soaking it in, not feeding on it, just acknowledging it. "I'm not back to wrestle," Roman said plainly. A murmur spread. "I'm not back to take someone's spot. And I'm not here to relive my past." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I'm here because this place is changing, and change needs someone willing to stand in front of it." The locker room listens. Backstage, wrestlers crowded around monitors. Veterans. Rookies. People who had once been afraid to speak up. Roman continued. "I gave this business my body. It gave me purpose, and scars. A faint smile. But it also gave me a wife who taught me that strength isn't how much pain you endure. It's knowing when pain isn't worth the price." The camera cut briefly to Ronda Rousey backstage, arms folded, eyes shining. The new role. Roman took a breath. "From now on," he said, "I'm here to make sure the next generation doesn't have to learn the hard way." He looked straight into the hard camera. "If you're hurt, you speak. If you're afraid, you don't hide. And if someone tells you that breaking yourself is the only way to belong, Roman's voice hardened. They're wrong. The crowd applauded louder now. Not cheers. Agreement. The test. A music hit suddenly. A top star, cocky, aggressive, beloved for never quitting, stormed down to the ring. This is WWE, the star shouted. Not therapy. You don't get to rewrite what toughness means. The crowd split. Roman didn't raise his voice. Toughness without wisdom is just damage, Roman said calmly. And I've done enough damage for one lifetime. The star stepped closer. You gonna fight me? Roman met his eyes. No, he said. I'm going to outlast you. The star laughed, then left, unsettled. Because Roman hadn't taken the bait. And that scared people more than fists ever did. After the show. Later that night, Roman and Ronda walked through an empty hallway. You okay? Ronda asked. Roman nodded. Yeah, he said. That was harder than any main event. Ronda smirked. Good, she replied. Means it mattered. Roman stopped walking and looked at her. You know they'll never stop testing this. Ronda took his hand. Let them, she said. We're not fighting for approval anymore. Roman smiled, fully, freely. The quiet victory. Weeks passed. No chaos. No miracles. Just steady change. Injury protocols were respected. Young talent spoke up. Matches ended when they needed to. And every now and then, Roman stood backstage, arms crossed, watching, not controlling, just present. Joe walked past him one night, gear on, confident. Thanks, Joe said simply. Roman nodded. No speeches. No drama. Closing image. Late one evening, Roman stood alone in the ring after a show. The lights were low. The seats were empty. He placed his hand on the mat one last time. You gave me everything you could, he whispered. Now it's my turn to give something back. From the ramp, Ronda waited. Roman stepped out of the ring. And didn't look back. If you want, we can do. Part 11, the final WrestleMania, Roman's last stand as a guardian. A surprise speech where Brock Lesnar appears one last time. A poetic, full-circle ending focused on Roman and Ronda alone. Or a next-generation finale centered on Joe headlining WrestleMania. Just say the word.